Mr. Speaker, I know that the Chancellor has been away, so let me update her on the mess that she left behind. The pound has hit a 14-month low. Government borrowing costs are at a 27-year high. Growth has been killed stone dead. Inflation is rising, impacting millions. Interest rates are staying higher for longer, and business confidence has fallen through the floor. The party opposite talked down the economy. They crippled businesses with colossal taxes, breaking all their promises. This is a crisis made in Downing Street. And Mr. Speaker, it should hardly surprise the Chancellor that international markets are uneasy. The UK's long-term borrowing costs have risen to their highest in almost 30 years. But while the government was losing control of the economy, Mr. Speaker, where was the Chancellor? Her trip to China had not even begun when my urgent question was taken in the House last week. She was still in the country, but she sent the Chief Secretary rather than face up to her own failures. So can I ask the Right Honourable Lady why she chose not to respond herself? Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor, of course, ducked the difficult questions by jetting off to Beijing. I believe that in Labour circles they are calling it the Peking duck, Mr. Speaker. Well, whatever was on the menu in China, was it really worth the unedifying sight of an increasingly desperate politician scampering halfway around the world with a begging bowl?
Rachel Reeves finds herself at the centre of a political maelstrom, a chancellor battered by waves of criticism, with her credibility sinking faster than the pound she is accused of destabilising. Her recent escapade to China, ostensibly to woo communist leaders, has done little to inspire confidence in her stewardship of the British economy. Instead, it has cemented a narrative of evasion and incompetence, with even her allies struggling to defend what increasingly appears to be a government adrift, steering the nation into economic chaos while hiding behind hollow rhetoric and tired excuses. In Parliament, Reeves faced a merciless grilling that laid bare the inadequacies of her leadership. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride's biting wit likened her to a tragic Shakespearean character, flailing and estranged, while the country bears the brunt of her economic missteps. His Peking duck jibe, mocking her decision to flee the country during a market meltdown, perfectly encapsulates the public's growing perception of a leader more interested in optics and diplomatic pageantry than the stark realities of governance. Her trip, framed as an effort to bolster ties with China, has instead become emblematic of her detachment from the crises unfolding at home. The economic turmoil Reeves presides over is staggering. UK borrowing costs have soared to a 27-year high. The pound has slumped to its weakest position since 2023, and businesses are warning of stagnation as her ill-conceived policies fuel inflation and job losses. Reeves' grandiose budget tax raid, marketed as a cornerstone of her fiscal strategy, has become a millstone around the neck of an economy already reeling from global headwinds. Critics rightly argue that her tax-heavy approach punishes growth and strangles investment, a textbook example of the socialist folly Stride so aptly condemned in his Commons address. Reeves' attempts to shift the blame onto her predecessors ring hollow. The Labour Party campaigned on promises of economic competence and stability, yet her tenure has been marked by confusion, inconsistency, and a conspicuous absence of leadership. Her refusal to rule out further tax hikes or spending cuts in the face of ballooning debt only reinforces the perception of a government caught in a perpetual cycle of reactionary measures, devoid of vision or coherent strategy. Even within her own party, dissent is brewing. Former Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell's scathing assessment of Reeves' fiscal constraints as politically suicidal highlights a growing unease on Labour's left, while whispers of potential replacements, including Labour stalwart Pat McFadden, suggest that her position is far from secure. Downing Street's unusual move to publicly affirm her continuation as Chancellor only underscores the fragility of her standing as speculation mounts about her ability to withstand the mounting pressure. What makes Reeves' predicament all the more damning is her tone, deaf response to criticism. While Stride delivered his blistering critique, painting her as a tragic Hamlet figure, Reeves offered little more than recycled platitudes about economic headwinds and vague commitments to kickstart growth. Her defense of her China trip as an act of leadership, rather than the escapism it appears to many, further alienates a public weary of excuses and hungry for solutions. Rachel Reeves' tenure as Chancellor is rapidly becoming a cautionary tale of over-promising and under-delivering. Her lack of transparency, inability to quell market fears, and dismissive attitude toward legitimate scrutiny reflect a leader ill-equipped to navigate the complexities of modern governance. The British public deserves better than a Chancellor whose legacy may ultimately be defined by her failure to rise to the moment and her disastrous mismanagement of the nation's economy.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Chancellor has been away, so let me update her on the mess that she left behind. The pound has hit a 14-month low. Government borrowing costs are at a 27-year high. Growth has been killed stone dead. Inflation is rising, impacting millions. Interest rates are staying higher for longer, and business confidence has fallen through the floor. The party opposite talked down the economy. This is a crisis made in Downing Street. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. At the end, you can feel the end. The Chancellor flailing, estranged it seems from those closest to her, those about her falling, the drums beating ever closer. To go or not to go, that is now a question. The Prime Minister will be damned if he does, but he will surely be damned if he does not. The British people deserve better.
Yeah. Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Chancellor is simply not serious. I mean, I've been on that side for 14 years. I think that usually when you have a statement, you ask some questions.
Rachel Reeves' dismissive and flippant response to Mel Stride's blistering critique of the government's catastrophic handling of the economy is emblematic of a leadership devoid of substance and unprepared to face the challenges it has exacerbated. Stride's impassioned speech highlighted undeniable economic failures under Reeves' watch. The pound at a 14-month low, borrowing costs at a 27-year high, growth stalling completely, and inflation wreaking havoc on millions of households. These are not abstract figures. They represent a nation struggling to stay afloat under the weight of misguided policies and gross economic mismanagement. Yet, Reeves' reaction was nothing short of insulting, brushing aside these grim realities with a condescending remark about her 14 years in opposition, as if mere time served equates to competence. Stride's vivid depiction of a government in chaos, a chancellor flailing, and a prime minister trapped in a no-win scenario, demanded a serious, measured, and detailed response. Instead, Reeves chose to undermine the gravity of the moment by accusing Stride of being not serious. This weak and evasive retort not only failed to address the damning specifics laid out by Stride, but also showcased her inability, or unwillingness, to engage with the real and pressing concerns of the British people. Her comment was more an attempt to score a cheap political point than to offer a meaningful defense or solution. What makes Reeves' response even more galling is its tone. Deafness. At a time when families are grappling with rising costs, businesses are losing confidence, and the public is yearning for competent leadership, Reeves chose to trivialize a debate on the nation's economic future. Instead of acknowledging the hardships millions are facing, she deflected with smug humor and empty rhetoric. Her refusal to confront the stark realities of inflation, high interest rates, and plummeting confidence reveals not just a lack of preparedness, but also a disturbing detachment from the struggles of ordinary citizens. Stride's critique struck at the heart of Labour's failed economic policies, which have crushed growth, fueled inflation, and left businesses and households scrambling to survive. Rather than seizing the opportunity to address these issues head-on, Reeves squandered it, offering no vision, no solutions, and no accountability. Her inability to engage substantively with Stride's points is a damning indictment of her capacity to lead in a time of crisis. Reeves' reliance on her tenure as a badge of authority only highlights her lack of achievement during that time. 14 years in opposition should have equipped her with the tools to respond effectively to criticism and to lead with vision and clarity. Instead, it has bred complacency and arrogance. Her comment, dripping with self-satisfaction, underscores a political career defined more by evasion and deflection than by meaningful contributions to public discourse. Ultimately, Rachel Reeves' performance in Parliament was not just a failure of leadership. It was an affront to the electorate. Her dismissive attitude, combined with her inability to offer coherent solutions to the economic crisis, exposes her as out of touch and ill-equipped to handle the responsibilities of her position. In a moment when the country needed reassurance and accountability, Reeves delivered neither. Instead, she embodied the very qualities Stride so effectively condemned: flailing, estranged from reality, and hopelessly unprepared. The British people deserve better than a chancellor who laughs in the face of their struggles and offers only excuses in the face of her failures. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the content. Share your feedback in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos. Also, join our free Telegram group link in the description for uncensored discussions on important issues.